So I attended Geek Girl Con in Seattle over the weekend, and I had so much fun talking to authors just up in the vendor hall. I mean, I did a panel and spoke to some people after that. But my favorite thing is just talking to people about audiobooks in general. And I got a lot of questions from the authors who were there, and I'd like to share the answers that I gave them. If you don't know who I am, my name is Rebecca H. Lee. I'm an audiobook narrator and producer, and I've been in the game for about 11 years now. I started in 2014. So, the first question I got is ACX still the best way to publish an audiobook? ACX is, if you're not familiar, it's the Audiobook Creation Exchange, and it's owned by Audible, and it is both a matchmaking service for primarily for indie authors and freelance audiobook narrators who also produce audiobooks to find each other. It's also a distributor, but they only distribute to Audible and to iTunes, and then Amazon, which is Audible. So, is it still the best way? It's hard to say. There are other options. There's a new model that is very, very new that ACX is using that I don't think you have to. I think they're actually limiting the availability of that, so you don't have to use the new model. There is some controversy over the new model and whether it's good or bad. But just because you use ACX to matchmake or to, maybe find an audiobook narrator, it doesn't mean you have to use ACX as a distributor. There are other options like InAudio and Authors Republic, and there's a few more they're called aggregate distributors. So, is it the best way? Definitely subjective, depends on your needs, depends on what you're trying to do and who you want to distribute to and various factors. So I can't really say for certain whether it's the best or not. I will say that since ACX has come around, there have been other ones that have popped up. They're different because they're not owned by Audible. And a lot of authors and independent publishers like these other ones better. The big publishers, they don't use ACX. They use their own services, and they might use another distributor. So it's not the only game in town. It is an option. What is an audiobook manuscript? I think this is coming from ACX, where it tells the authors that they need to have a specific audiobook manuscript for the narrator. And it's not that there's really a different manuscript that would be used. It's just that they want it to be finished. And by finished, they mean edited. They mean retail ready. So if you have a manuscript that is kind of done, but maybe it needs some tweaking, and you're thinking that you'll just send this to the narrator and figure the rest out later, that doesn't work. That's, in the contract with ACX and probably any other people you work with or any other entity you work with, they're going to require that the manuscript that you give the narrator is finished, is edited, is retail ready, so that the narrator can just do their job and they don't have to worry about, there are a bunch of typos and mistakes in this audiobook. What's the best software for doing an audiobook? So that really depends on what you mean by doing an audiobook and what you're familiar with, really. If you are narrating your own audiobook and someone else is editing it, really anything that you use that you can record, onto a desktop and that can create WAV files, those are the high quality files, is going to work for you. So a very popular one is Audacity. That's free. If you are doing editing, like you're doing your own editing, you're going to need something a little bit fancier. You can do it on Audacity, but it's going to be a lot more work. It's not set up for quick editing or for quick mastering. It's going to take a lot. In that case, you're going to want something better. But what I would suggest really is outsourcing your editing, for sure. Outsource your audiobook narration if you're not an audiobook narrator. But if you can't, if you're doing like a memoir that's really personal to you, or even if maybe you're in the media and you are the personality and you are who the the listener is going to expect will be narrating the audiobook, then you got to record it. So, but outsource the editing. It's as when I started, I had probably an equivalent of a year's worth of audio engineering, specifically for music, because I was a music major in college, and it was still a lot for me to learn. It took me way longer, and I was kind of unemployed at the time, or very semi employed. And so I was working all day, every day for weeks, months, just to edit this audiobook and learn by my mistakes. And I was on Audacity at the time. And then I had to learn it again with the more sophisticated software once I realized that I was going to be doing a lot of editing, which I don't even do anymore. I outsource it if I'm doing indie books. So think about outsourcing. If you already can use, let's say you use Adobe Audition for other work, or you use Pro Tools, the most common ones specifically for kind of the narrators who are, also doing their editing are Studio One and Reaper, because they're sort of cheap, and there are programs, or you can get tutors who can help you set up, specifically for audiobook narration and editing, and they work pretty well. You don't need the best, most expensive software for audiobook narration. You just need something that works and that you can edit quickly on. So those are my tips, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. If you want to be on my audiobook tip of the week for authors, sign up on my webpage. I also have other frequently asked questions on my webpage, and I'm going to put that in the description so you can access that. And you can go to my homepage and listen to my audiobook samples if you're thinking about hiring somebody like me for your next audiobook.